Hello, everybody on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and our audio podcast. I'm Josh Oakes with smartsocial.com, and boy, do we have a lot in store for you here today. I've got a really fun podcast and guest here for you today, and we're going to talk about some digital safety tips for back to school that you can use, or all fall, quite frankly. We're going to talk a lot in this interview about some travel tips and also just making sure that you're secure as a family. I have somebody here that I admire that is also an absolute expert when it comes to safety. Her name is Kirsten Hoyt, and she is Academic Dean, College of Information Systems and Technology at the University of Phoenix. She's spoken at our Digital Citizenship Conference where she wowed people, taught people how they can get hacked. She did all this really cool stuff. So we're having her back here today to talk about all these amazing tips. Boy, do we have a lot for you here today. So Kirsten, welcome to the video.
Well, thank you, Josh. I'm happy to be here.
So first of all, let's dive in. You're live in Phoenix, Arizona. Brought the technology that we have these days where we can do everything live from all over the world is amazing. I want to talk to you about, or I want to ask you about a lot of these tips. One of them is you tell people keep your location services turned off whenever possible. How would you tell people to talk to their kids about that?
So it's one of those things where you wouldn't necessarily send your child out into the middle of a park to play by themselves. Well, if you're going to send them out with a cell phone, any picture that they take has location services tagged. And it's in the camera of the cell phone, but it's also in things like Instagram stories and Snapchat's Snap Maps. And so they are out doing things and those things are being posted online, it's very easy to find out where they're at that moment. And it's kind of like sending your kid out into the middle of a playground by themselves, unsupervised. Anybody can find out where they're at. And so we just want to make sure that you know what those settings are so that you can turn off the location settings. Your phone has them for being able to turn them off in the camera, but many of the apps have them as well.
That's great. Now, your next tip is limit how often and how much your children post, but you dive into some personal information that we probably should be careful about posting. What is that, and what should we tell them not to post?
Yeah, so I just personally just got back from a vacation, and I didn't announce on Facebook that I was going on vacation, and I didn't post any of my pictures while I was on vacation. I waited till I actually was back in the house, and then I said, hey, we just went on this wonderful vacation and went to all of these places, and I put my pictures up then. It has to do with the physical security of your home, because when you post many of those things, depending on your settings, your friends can see it, or your friends of your friends can see it, or somebody else may comment on it, and that comment could be public. So it's not the sphere of control you have, it's the sphere of control that your friends and their friends have that will get that out. And personally don't want my house broken into when I'm not home, right? And so
And for everybody listening on the podcast or watching us live right now, you bring up a great point. And a lot of parents that we talk to, they say, yeah, but you don't understand. It's okay for me at that moment. Or kids think this way. Who's going to know where I live? Well, we leave a trail of these little tiny breadcrumbs. People know where you live. You check in at home. You take a picture, right? I mean, it is impossible these days to not Google somebody and find publicly identifiable information of where we live. So parents, remember to keep that in mind when you're reminding your kids, and remember to go to Google and just Google your kid's full name and see what public information comes up. Where I grew up, just about everybody has public information online. The address where you grew up is definitely somewhere out there.
Yeah.
Your next tip is be selective about who you follow, and talk to your kids about who they follow back. Why is that so important?
Right. Well, so the first thing is that cyberbullying is a pretty big phenomenon going on right now, and so just by limiting those close friends, especially in the beginning, I mean, kids need to learn and they need to graduate their account, so they start small and they grow over time, but they also need to understand that just because it has my picture on it and the account has my name and an email address that looks like it might be mine, doesn't mean that it's actually me. There are a lot of very many accounts that are hacked on a daily basis, and they go in. If your pictures are public, they just right click and save your picture. They go create a brand new Facebook account or Instagram account, and then they friend you. right? So if you get a second friend request from somebody you're already friends with, chances are that is not somebody that's not somebody that you want to be friends with. So it's just about being smart about who you friend, and remembering that sometimes you post things in anger, sometimes you post things because they are happy, but anybody can see them, and anybody can misconstrue them, and anybody can use them. And if it happens to be somebody who's not really the person you think they are, you could be in trouble for that.
Yeah, and actually, as I travel the country talking to 30,000 students a year, some of them will bully me. They'll make a fake account under my name with all of my
Mhm.
public pictures and run around and think it's really funny to make fun of me. And it's very easy to find who they are. I just send it to the
Sure.
school. They take care of it.
Yeah.
And if parents, if you do see that, there's a way to report it and to go in and all that stuff. So that it's
Yeah.
better to report it from the actual person that they stole the pictures from. So you get into your kid's account and do that, and then Instagram looks at that.
Right.
Okay, your next tip is messaging on social media isn't the same as texting. What do you mean by that?
So the policies that you look at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the policies that they have, that all those messagings, they become personal property or property of the account. And so and you can also message somebody. I mean, I can text somebody whose number I have, but I have to have their number in order to text them. I can find anybody on any of the social media accounts, and I can message them. And it comes in as an unidentifiable message because it's not somebody you're connected to, but you can still reply back to that person, and you can accept that message into the system. So again, you're subjecting yourself to messages from people who you may or may not know, and whether you don't know whether that person is the real person or acting like the real person.
Yeah, and parents is a great example. What we're talking about here is kids understand how texting works because they see it. Kids understand how driving works because from ages 0 to 16, they learn how you drive. They watch you drive. But
Right.
unfortunately, this private messaging, which Instagram has and Snapchat has, that you may not be able to monitor as easily,
Right.
they don't know how to behave in that as much. And this is why we're doing this today, is because you need to talk with them about that. They see how
You do.
texting works. You can block, you can text, you can screenshot, you can do all this stuff, but it's important to note that people can get access to your kids' inbox that love them a lot less than you love your kids.
That's
Okay,
true.
your next tip is do a sweep on privacy settings every 3 months. Talk to us about that.
So the privacy settings, and you'll notice that your apps update. I mean, I went on vacation, I came back, I had 30 apps that needed to update, right? But they're updating, they update security features, they update privacy settings. So keeping those current is important. That's number one. The privacy settings also change sometimes, when they make those updates. So Facebook I just recently noticed that they added a way to temporarily block somebody. So I have temporary privacy settings. So and I look at that, the 2 and 3 year old children who, you're my friend today, you're not my friend tomorrow. That's kind of one of those things that starts to happen on social media. And so you can actually temporarily suspend somebody and then bring them back if you just get mad for a couple of days. So it's just really important for you to look at those privacy settings because they change. That also means that maybe your picture is private today, but they go to 2 different settings, private, and they alter the way that they have their privacy settings. And so you want to go back in and just make sure that you still have the settings that you want for the pictures that you're showing.
That's very wise. And that's another reason for us to go to Google and in an incognito search, see how the world sees us.
Yeah.
Right? Do it with your kids. It's good for
Yeah.
your kids to see this. Then you're not the bad parent. You're like, whoa. Okay, so we've talked a lot about some safety tips. These are really, really helpful. So thank you. The next, let's move into some travel tips because we finished a lot of traveling this summer, but there's going to be holidays coming up here soon. You talk a little bit about avoiding unprotected public Wi-Fi. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, and that's a travel tip in an every day you leave your house type of travel tip, as well as taking a vacation travel tip, because an unprotected Wi-Fi network is one of those that's at the local coffee shop. You go into a restaurant, they've got public Wi-Fi. Go to the airport, they've got public Wi-Fi. One of the things that we've seen in doing some research and some training on cybersecurity is there are these devices that are called pineapples, and they look like a little box with little antennas on the top of them. They look a lot like a router network or a router device, And they use that device to log onto the network using the same login and password that everybody's using on that network, and it just sits there and it listens.
Mm-hmm.
So you're at the public Wi-Fi, you go into your bank account, you go into your Facebook account or your Amazon account, whatever it happens to be, and they're listening. They're watching for your passwords, they're watching for information that they can use, and that's all they do. They just sit and listen, and then they go back and they analyze what they caught through this Pineapple device. And so it's much better and much safer to just use the data plan that's on your phone. So I walk out of the house, I turn off my Wi-Fi network and I turn off my Bluetooth. And so I use my data plan when I'm out and around. I do have my Apple Watch, so sometimes the Bluetooth stays on, but I just turn all that off and I use my data plan when I'm out. And most computers, you can now connect your computer to your phone and use the data plan with your computer. So it becomes its own hotspot. So that's
and just for everybody that's listening in right now, this Pineapple device, I have a bunch of hacker friends. They're the good kind, and they are paid by companies to hack into things. Let me explain to everybody how this works, because I think the why is not only helpful for students, but us as humans, as parents, it's helpful. A Pineapple will at big, if you've ever seen the HBO show called Silicon Valley, they actually put these pineapples all over a conference, and they pretend like, for instance, some people will pretend like they're GoGo Air Wi-Fi, because if you're like me and you're on a lot of planes, like Kirsten, you're on it as well, planes all the time, your computer will automatically attach to GoGo Air Wi-Fi, which is on American Airlines and Delta, and it'll go, oh wow, I'm already connected. This is so nice. It's the same name. And you'll start sending and receiving over that data instead of your Verizon Wireless or Sprint data. And all of a sudden, all of your private information is being listened to. So they can actually pop up and you're thinking, no, I'll never connect to a random one that looks like it's free public Wi-Fi. It'll automatically, without you knowing, connect, because they can change the name to something that looks familiar. And your phone doesn't know the difference. It tries to do that. So that's how this is so scary sometimes. If you're at a Starbucks, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the other thing that happens is on your computer, you at least have the option to go into your networks and remove anything that you've connected to that's not current. Your phones don't have that capability. The only way you can delete a network off of your phone is...
I seem to have lost you there for a sec. Can you hear me? We've lost your audio, unfortunately.
Sorry, I came back. Sorry.
There you go.
So on your phone, you don't have the capability of doing that unless you're currently connected to the network. You can go into it and you can say, forget this network. But so Southwest is a prime example. We were playing with one of the pineapples in the office, and the gentleman created a Southwest fake network, and my phone connected right to it because I'd been on it one time 4 years ago.
Yeah. It's a great point. And that is one of the problems with Apples is you can't go in and your computer or your Mac PC, you can go in and forget those networks, but you have to actually be connected to it on an iPhone in order for you to forget it. It's so weird.
Exactly. There's not a list of everything you've connected like there is on the computer.
And hopefully we'll have a fix for that in the near future. Yes. All right. So we talked about avoid unprotected Wi-Fi. Look to use your phone's hotspot. You talked a little bit about that. Avoid sharing travel plans on social media. Let's talk about one more tip that I think you have, and this is really an important one, called two-step verification. What is that? Give us an example, please, and why should we use it?
Yeah, so the first example that I'll give you, and a lot of different apps have this, but I use Gmail, and so Gmail Google has two-step verification. That means that I log in with my username or my email address and my password, and then if I'm on a device that I've never been on before, it says, hey, is this really you? And it says, if it's really you, I'm going to send you a text message with a code that you have to enter. Or you may have to go to the app. Facebook makes you go to the app on the phone and get an authentication code out of the app to enter onto it. But it's that two-step verification that yes, you put in your username and your password, but now they're also verifying you on another email or a device or a text message to be able to get into the account. And so you have to verify that you're you in that way. And since you are the only one who usually has your cell phone, that text message with the code is the way they do it.
So wait, paint a picture of how this could go wrong if I don't do that. It doesn't say, like, I'm going to be devil's advocate. Even though I use this on a lot of my systems, what could go wrong? Why do I need to protect my email?
Well, so prime example that I experienced in the past is that I had my Amazon shopping account hacked because they got into my email address, sent, sorry, they sent they went into Facebook or into my Amazon account and tried to change it, but they were in my email address. Sorry, Josh.
It's okay. Let me use an example. Let me tell. Here's what could happen. Everybody that's listening right now, this is really important because if somebody were to all of a sudden have access to one of your accounts, if they were to somebody have access to, let's say, your Gmail address, here's all they need to do. Let's say they wanted to get access to your bank account. The best thing they can do is go to your Gmail account and get access to a bunch of stuff. They have your mom's maiden name. Probably they can get all this other stuff, your favorite number, your favorite car name, whatever that is. A, they could guess your passwords to other things. Or B, all they have to do is go to B of A and try, or Wells Fargo, and
reset your password.
And it goes, all right, go check your email. Well, now that person, if you have access to that email, you can do anything. You can change anything. You can have a credit card show a different address. That's what they want access to is your Gmail address. And that's why if you use Gmail or anything else, my mom is still on AOL. This is a problem.
My mom too.
No, I don't want to change that. Mom, you are the weakest link. My mother, as sweet as she is, love her to death. And we're going to have this little talk here soon. We've moved my father over to Gmail and done some two-step authentication stuff and shown him why. But my mom is actually the weakest link in the family. Well, how is that possible? Well, my parents share a little bit of my Dropbox corporate account because I'm backing all their stuff up without them even caring about it. I go, look, you got to put everything here. And then if something, heaven forbid, were to happen, we have an exact duplicate of everything and I'm covering you.
Right.
But if my mom's AOL email were to get hacked and all this stuff were to have, I am susceptible to a lot. Now I'm very careful about that, but she doesn't have two-step authentication set up. So somebody could try and get in. She could click on something she doesn't understand or whatever. And so that's why it's so important to get your family over to Gmail if you can. Yahoo's fine too, I'm sure. But get them over to something that has that. Use that on Facebook. Use that on your bank. Two-step authentication of some sort.
The other thing that you'll find is that most of the time, those accounts will also send you an email that says, hey, somebody tried to log into your account at such and such a time. And if it wasn't you, take this action, right? And so those types of things are being put in place so that you're immediately catching if you've been hacked or not as well.
I love that stuff as well. And that's why there was this TV show where this guy is really good at hacking into people's emails and learning about them. And I'm thinking to myself, this is so fake. You can't just get into someone's Gmail, guess their password. They're going to get notifications, text messages and stuff.
Exactly.
The companies have thought this through. 5 years ago, you probably could have hacked in and done some randomizers and stuff. But nowadays, when you have the two-step authentication and when the system starts to learn where you live, it wants to know you're in a new IP address, a new location, a new device. We want to text you for your own privacy. So parents, please don't get upset about these things. They're like, oh, it's so annoying. They are there to protect you. There are things that happen that are really bad. People have bank account stuff moved in bank accounts, all kinds of different things. And another thing that we've been worried about is we're going to reach 1 million people this year to teach them how to shine online.
Congratulations.
I go to great lengths even to not let somebody log into our social media planning system. We have a scheduler called Buffer, and I require a two-step authentication there because what if somebody wanted to go in and they thought they'd be funny and all of a sudden tweet very inappropriate stuff? It would very badly hurt my reputation, which would keep protecting 1 million people. So I take my reputation seriously, not just for me, but because of how important it is to others. So you can see how that would go wrong for me. It would be hard to go, oh, we were hacked. No, every politician that's doing naughty things online says that they're hacked. Josh, are you naughty too? So these are the things that go through our minds. Okay, we have talked about a lot. I'm sorry to get all pumped up here. But you taught us a little bit about how to keep location services turned off, which is great. Limit how often your kids post. Be selective about who you follow. Messaging on social media isn't the same as texting. Do a sweep on the privacy settings every 3 months, which I loved. Avoid public Wi-Fi And then we talked about two-step authentication, probably the most tactical and important on the security. Kirsten, I want to leave you with final thoughts. What's one more tip that people should know this fall, back to school? What can we do before the holidays to really make sure that we're protected as a family?
Well, I think the final thing that I want to leave you with is passwords, because passwords are really, really important. I mean, and the one really great tip is an 8-character password typically can be hacked in about 2 hours. If you do a 13-character password, it actually takes upwards of 2 days. So if it takes that long, the hacker will likely give up before they move on to the next one. So they're going to try it, see if they can figure it out. They're going to move on to the next one. So if you are using 13 characters or more and you are changing them on a regular basis, then you're less likely to get hacked.
Wow, that's genius. Now, we are trying to do an app guide. We're known in the industry as if we find a bad app, we make a 3-minute video teaching parents what it is and why it's bad. We're making an app guide, and I am the guinea pig for Dashlane versus LastPass and all these other password managers. Do you use one?
I don't.
So I just started doing it, and I'm actually loving it. And you can use them. They can be free, but I paid them $40 a year to manage all my passwords. Now, here's why it's kind of cool. I'm geeking out on this because I'm able to, it's a little bit easier. I downloaded all my passwords from Chrome into it. It's very easy. I use Dashlane as my primary one. I did a lot of research, and I found out that one is the most secure. There's a little bit of an annoyance, but every annoyance in life means you might be actually more secure. So if you're willing to take a couple extra steps, which I said I'm willing to do that to protect myself and to also share with parents someday why I did that. On Dashlane, if I forget a password, I go to it. I put in a master password that is long, that doesn't use anything else. And it says, here's your password. You can show it, copy it, or we'll auto log you in if possible on your iPhone or on your desktop or your iPad or anywhere else.
Right, it kind of syncs your accounts, right?
What's that?
It syncs your accounts across your devices, right?
It syncs all my accounts. It also shows me, hey, this password is used in all these other networks. Now, I want to have a talk with all the parents that are watching right now. And Kirsten, you know this, but there was Dropbox, which many of us use, huge company, actually had a huge breach one year. I'm paraphrasing, but it wasn't that Dropbox was hacked. It was that everybody was using the same password with something else that was breached in Dropbox. And so they would be able to take Josh's information over on this other website that got hacked and log into Dropbox. Try those credentials on Dropbox. Log in and I can see all your tax information, your PDFs, your kids' schoolwork, and all this other stuff. And so what Dashlane will do, and the reason why I'm telling you this is, it'll say, hey, you got some real security precautions. This password is used 37 times. Why don't we start changing them for you to a random 13 to 18-digit passcode, whatever that app will allow. And you can always come back and get it. You just remember one long password. But then all of a sudden, it makes you a lot more secure without even knowing it. You're just like, hey, I can't use the same password because if one of these gets breached, the rest of my life is insecure. So anyways, that's something we're doing right now. I am the guinea pig and I'm using it as much as I can. But it is downloaded them all and I'm just going through them. So geeking out there. Hey,
looking forward to the update for it though.
Absolutely. Thank you. I'll probably shoot a long video just teaching people how to use it, why it's bad as well. And I'll be sure to send it to you.
Great.
Hey, Kirsten, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All of you that are watching and listening, you can click the links below to learn more about her. And you can learn more about also our program called Parent University that you've heard about, which makes you the safest parents on the block because it gives you videos your kids can watch. It turns us into the bad people that will all of a sudden now say, hey, kids, here's the why and the what and the details and the story behind it that your parents want to tell you, but really they're just giving you the solution. But we want to give you the emotional why so that now your parents are the good people. You can turn to them with questions, and Josh and his team are the ones that are doing the hard work to explain to you. So Parent University, it's at smartsocial.com. You can even get a free PDF of my book, Light, Bright, and Polite for Professionals, which teaches you how and why you need to shine online. Thanks to all of you that are watching here today. We'll see you on the next episode. As always, keep it light, bright, and polite. Talk to you guys soon.